Dr. Shaul Arieli is our last speaker. He is the author and a world-known specialist on the history of the borders of the conflict and the negotiations around them. The Spanish edition of the Truman Atlas of the Jewish-Arab conflict, which we launched today, joins the 6 languages that preceded it: Hebrew, Arabic, English, French, German, and Russian. The Atlas represents the core mission of our institute, to make our knowledge accessible and reachable to a wider public. I'll shorten my words because I know that we are running out of time, and I'll just go directly to Shaul and let him, and he will explore the impact of Madrid Peace Conference on the maps that follow through. The floor is yours, and thank you, Shaul, for your partnership and for being such a great fellow of the Truman Institute.
Okay, good evening. I was asked to talk about the territorial aspects of the Madrid Peace Conference, but as you know, maps were not presented during this conference, and this is the reason, by the way, why I didn't put a separate milestone in the Atlas for the Madrid conference. So I chose to deal with the development of both sides' positions for the territorial issue since Madrid conference until today, until Trump vision that came out last year in January 2020. And I would like to start by saying my main argument, and my main argument that it took 17 years to Israel since Madrid conference until Annapolis conference or Annapolis process to recognize and to agree to the Palestinian position for the territorial issue, which is 67 borders according to Resolution 242 and their interpretation to the formula territories for land. But over the last 13 years, Israel, headed by Benjamin Netanyahu, returned to the first point, to contain the Palestinian political entity, to have less than state for the Palestinian political entity, really to control the external borders and, of course, the passages between this entity to other countries around us, especially Jordan and Egypt. Here we can see this chart, which shows us what was the Israeli position for the percentage of the Palestinian, for the size of the Palestinian state out of the territories, which included, of course, Gaza Strip, West Bank, together with the East Jerusalem. So we can start with, Rabin's speech here, which took place in October 1995. And he mentioned, he didn't present any map, but he mentioned his principles for the permanent status agreement with Palestine, and it was very close and very similar to the idea and the perception of a lone plan, still containing the Palestinian entity, and he said very clear that he means that the Palestinian political entity will be less than a state, and then so we can say it's about 70% of the territories. And then to 19 Camp David summit, and the Israeli proposal offered by Ehud Barak was about 89 to 22% of the territories, means to annex 8% without land swap. 6 months later, after President Clinton came out with his parameters in December 2000, we went to Taba, and the Israeli position was about 94% of the territories, again without a land swap. And only in Annapolis, 2008, the negotiation between Mahmoud Abbas and Olmert, they agreed on the parameter for the territorial issue, which is 67 lines as a basis, and a land swap on 1-to-1 ratio. Means some modifications with the green line because of the Israeli settlements block beyond the 67 line. But since then, we faced so many initiatives, and like John Kerry and others, but really only in 2020, President Trump came out with his vision for peace that was not more than idea of autonomy for the Palestinians. The details of this plan were so far from the idea of two-state solution, and for the territorial issue, he offered not more than 84% of the territories. And let's see now all of this by the maps. The basic position of the parties lay on 242 and 338 resolutions. From the Palestinian side, you can see their interpretation for this was 22% of the historical Palestine, or the mandatory Palestine, the West Bank together with Gaza Strip, also with a corridor to keep the contiguity between the two parts of the Palestinian state. On the other side, Shamir came with different idea. He really said that he's coming, as my friend, my colleagues already mentioned, not more than autonomy for the Palestinians. It's something like a loan plan, as you can see here, to keep the Jordan River as the security river of the State of Israel, or even Sharon plan that was approved by Begin's government in October 1977, which contained the Palestinian entity, especially here in the mountain ridge of the West Bank. And then later here we can see the development of the Israeli proposal, starting by Camp David Summit in 2000, July 2000. You see the idea. It's not only the Israeli main blocks like, Ariel or Modi'in Elite or Etzion block in Ma'ale Adumim, but also to keep this narrow strip along the Jordan River, again, to contain the Palestinian entity and to separate Palestine from the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan, and to control also the international passages on the Jordan River. So as I mentioned, it was about 90%, 92% maximum for the Palestinian state. Then in Taba, we gave up, Israel gave up on the Jordan Valley, as you can see here, and the only parameter and only factor which affect the Israeli policy, how to define the final border with Palestine, was, of course, the settlers and the settlements. And here we can see the Israeli proposal of 6%, but again, without any land swap for the Palestinians. And this was the last Israeli proposal in Annapolis 2008. You see the Israeli bloc, 6.5%. And also this was the first time that the Israeli Prime Minister presented his proposal, his offer for the land swap, as you can see here, to enlarge Gaza Strip and also other places around the West Bank. We have also the Palestinian proposal, parallelly to the Israeli proposal. First of all, here in Taba Summit, they offer a land swap of 3.1%, as you can see here. And in Annapolis, it was only 1.9%. but Mahmoud Abbas was ready to enlarge or to double this offer to 3.8%. It depends on many other things. What next? We have four main alternatives. First of all, if we are going to Bennett plan to annex Area C or different areas in the West Bank, and we know what are the implications of such unilateral step. Are we going to adopt something like Trump plan, which is under the title of two-state solution, but it's not more than autonomy for the Palestinian entity? Or a two-state solution, this proposal about land swap of 4% between Israel and Palestine, which keep the Palestinian and the Israeli contiguity and also doesn't harm the Palestinian fabric of life, or we are moving to totally different idea and different solution, which is one-state solution, as you can see here between the sea and the Jordan River. And the last thing is, of course, the question who was right during or after Madrid conference. Is it Shamir who came with very limited expectation to this summit, or Saib Arikat that said about Shamir, he didn't understand what we did. Things would develop naturally, and those who tried to stop them, to stop the course, would fade. And until today, we don't have the right answer. Thank you.